235. So
your conference is being recorded.
So due to the continued COVID-19 pandemic and the continued declaration of a state of emergency by Governor Bill Lee, we're holding this meeting without objection via telephone conference in order to conduct essential MTA business while protecting the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans. This meeting will be held in accordance with Governor Lee's Executive Order number 51. I ask that all participating on the telephone conference please mute your phones until it is time for you to present your agenda item. I appreciate that very much. So the first order of business for us is to do a roll call. And so you know this meeting is being recorded, so speak up and note your presence when I call your name and also say your name and repeat your name after me. Janet Miller.
Janet Miller, present.
Gail Carl Williams, present. Walter Searcy. And we did hear that Hannah Paramore-Breen would not be available today. Is that correct, Monica?
That is correct.
Okay, and she is not. And Hannah, you are not on the line. Is that correct? Okay. So at this point, we do not have a quorum, but let us proceed to the parts of our agenda that we can. I'm going to also ask additional attendees to please note your presence when I call their name. Our Board Secretary and General Counsel, Margaret Bim.
I'm present, Margaret Bim.
Our CEO, Steve Bland.
Steve Bland, present.
Thank you. Our CAO, Rita Roberts-Turner.
Rita Roberts-Turner, present.
Rita, it's good to have you back there. We've thought about you and kept you close.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
CFO, Ed Oliphant.
Ed Oliphant, present.
Director of Service Quality, Dan Freudberg. I'm sorry, Dan, I messed that all up, didn't I?
Oh, no problem. Dan Freudberg, present.
Director of Marketing and Communications, Jason Minsner.
Yes, I'm here.
So, Dan wouldn't feel so bad.
Not a problem, Jeff.
Fair, right? Thank you, Jason. And Executive Assistant and Board Liaison, Monica House.
Monica House, present.
Hey, is there anybody else that is present that I did not call your name?
Faye DeMassimo, Mayor Cooper's office, present.
Hi, Faye. It's good to hear your voice. Anybody else? We're good?
Trey Walker, Chief Engineer, present.
Hi, Trey.
Carolyn Riggs-Farrar, Director of Operations, present.
Okay.
Lydia.
I'm sorry.
Lydia Beck, Project Manager, present.
Nick Oldham, Senior Safety Program Manager, present.
Bill Miller, Chief Operations Officer, present.
So all other staffers who are not presenting today, will you all send Monica an email to let her know if I missed one of you that you were on the call, and she can include that for us? I'm going to pass on the minutes at this point, and I am going to ask if we have any public comments. This is sort of an opportunity to re-engage with the public as we do this online, and excited to be able to add this to the telephonic agenda. So, any public comments? Monica, did you receive any requests?
No, ma'am, I did not receive any public requests via email. I did not receive any.
Is there anyone on the line that would like to give a public comment?
Yeah, I would. This is Jessica Dawson with Trans Alliance, Middle Tennessee.
Jessica,
if I may.
Good to hear your voice, but can you spell your name for the record, please?
Yeah, Jessica and DAUPHIN.
Jessica, as you well know, we have a 3-minute limit on our comments.
Thank you, Gail.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say that I believe WeGo has been doing a tremendous job at keeping bus operators and riders safe and keeping the city moving. I really appreciate it. We've been keeping up with it. Steve has done an excellent job also of visiting with Transit Alliance members and partners through Zoom calls and meetings and through our Transit Citizen Leadership Academies. We start a brand new Neighborhood Transit Institute this Saturday, and it's going to run for 3 sessions. Like our other programs, it is free for folks to attend. I highly recommend anyone take it. It's you can register on our website, thetransitalalliance.org. And we, again, will see Steve, I think, on August 8th. He will be talking about the good work of WeGo now through COVID and as we recover and into the future, including Better Bus. So I just wanted to clap my hands and say you've been doing a great job, and thanks to the board. You guys are also, leading this organization through a pandemic, and it's been wonderful to watch and positive for me to convey all the good work you all are doing to the rest of the community when I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate the kind comments. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, this is John Bull here.
I'm sorry?
John Bull.
Oh, hi, Mr. Bull. Don, would you just state your name one more time for the record and spell your name so we have a clear record?
John, John, Bull, Bull.
Thanks, Mr. Bull. And you know the rules, 3 minutes.
I'll keep it shorter than that. I live at 3770 Wallace Road. I want to echo Jessica's remarks. Y'all are doing a wonderful job. I note that the social distancing in regard particular to the health of the bus operators is being done very well. We're well masked, and the recent policy of having all riders using masks is really helping with cutting down on vectors of COVID-19. But thank you all for what you all are doing. These are trying times.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. I appreciate your being here and listening in with us today. It means a lot. Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, this is Darius Knight.
Hello, Darius. How are you?
I'm all right. Oh, excuse me. I'm
Darius,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well,
yes, ma'am.
So we have a good record. Would you spell your first and last name so we have a good record?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. First name is Darius, last name Knighc. I just wanted to basically say to all of the staff that has been working hard through this pandemic to continue to be safe on all levels and all fronts. I want to say to Steve, we appreciated the Better Bus Committee meeting that we had, and I would also like to thank the operations staff as well as the maintenance staff for literally taking the time during this whole situation to even make sure that they were getting buses up and running that had been an issue for quite a while. I don't think that nobody has stated that. I've listened in quite a few different times, and this is the first time public comments had been allowed. But I just wanted to make sure that staff is aware that their hard work is appreciated and it does not go unnoticed. At the same time, I would also like to say to the board, as we move forward as a city through this pandemic, really not knowing what's going to come next, to also be aware of next year's budget and actually paying attention to what can be done as of right now before we even come to that point of next year's budget to be sure that we will not end up in a situation where we are cutting services that may be dire to many Nashvillians of Davidson County, as well as the following counties who come in and use the RTA service as well. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. You stay healthy and safe as well.
I will try.
Are there any other public comments? Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, I will close the public comment section of our agenda. And those who might want to make a public comment, make certain that you send something to Monica, and then we can make certain that we can call on you next week, and even if next month, and even if you wanted to send an email to let us know your thoughts, we appreciate that as well. Okay, so I'm going to call on Ed to sort of present to us our monthly financials compared to budget, and I know this is a discussion-only item.
Thank you, ma'am. On pages 8 and 9, you have the results of operations and balance sheet through May 31st. I will, on page 8, focus on the right-hand side, the year-to-date side. As you can see, basically related to COVID-19, we are down in our passenger revenues, and pretty much all of our revenues are down. Contract revenues is due to reduced services of RTA. The other non-transportation is due to the rent abatements. We are allowing our tenants, Dunkin' Donuts and Premier, to not pay rent or pay a reduced amount of rent. So that is the downside. And then on the expense side, about two-thirds of the way down, you can see that overall we are very favorable in our expenses. And again, due to reduced services and things like that in the service category, we aren't using our overflow services as much as we normally would as far as compared to budget. Fuel continues to be a very bright star, not only due to the reduced services, but also due to our fuel hedging agreements that we have in place. The one negative is the casualty and liability, and I say negative, it's a negative number. And I've looked at that, and I'm looking at the reserve that we will probably need at the end of June, and it's looking a little larger than it normally is, so I'm anticipating that will probably correct itself in June once we have our third-party vendors giving us what reserves we need in place. But based on what I'm seeing, I think that will correct itself. As far as on page 9, you have the balance sheet. Two-thirds of the way down, we have not borrowed any money yet. And with CARES Act funding, hopefully we will be able to minimize the borrowing in this for the rest of this year anyway, and going into next year. At the bottom of page 9, we have the accounts receivable, accounts payable, aging. And for transparency's sake, on the accounts receivable side, of that $900,000 that's outstanding, $425,000 of that is receivable from RTA, which has been paid by now. And then on the accounts payable side, we only had a payable of about $5,500 to RTA, which is reflective, again, of the reduced services. That's where we reimburse them on the revenues that we collect on the Southeast Corridor services that we provide for them. And with their services being down, the number is way down. Unless anybody has any questions, that concludes my report.
Does anyone have any questions for Ed?
I've got 5.
Hi, Walter. Hi, Walter.
But they'll wait until the next meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Walter, since we hear your voice, will you? I'll go back to roll call and make certain that the record reflects that you are here and on the line here. So I'll state your name. If you repeat it and say present, that'd be great. Walter Searcy.
Walter Searcy, present.
And that completes our roll call. Thank you very much, Walter. Next, we are with Dan to talk about the monthly operating statistics. Dan, are you there?
I am. Thank you. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Moving to page 11, we have the month-to-month comparison for May for the operating statistics. Clearly, the theme of this report is the effects of the pandemic's ongoing effects on our ridership and other key performance metrics. I would note, although our ridership is down around 60%, I did a quick check just looking what the national trends were, and we're actually faring relatively well compared to the nation as a whole. Some estimates, this was from the previous month from APTA, showed a national decline in ridership of more than 70%, with some systems down as much as 90%. We have seen an increase in our unit operating costs per hour in response to the pandemic as well. This is due to two primary factors, the most important of which is that we are operating at significantly reduced service levels. We're operating at essentially Saturday levels with some enhancements in service on key routes to maintain social distancing. But we still have the ongoing administrative and support costs of the organization. And then we also do have some, additional expenses associated with cleaning and also with installing driver barriers on our fleet. Those were not so much of an effect on cost in May, but those are in progress now. And then we do see some, I suppose you could call them positive effects or factors that we've seen as a result of our operating at these reduced service levels, in that our miles between road calls has increased significantly. This is due to we still have our full complement of maintenance employees. They were some of those that were higher risk were allowed to take some time off, but right now we're fully staffed, and we are also able to hold in some of those buses that are getting closer to end of life and make some much needed repairs. So we're trying to take advantage as we can of this unfortunate situation by improving the reliability of the fleet. And as to be expected, given the significant reductions in traffic, our on-time performance is much higher. Unfortunately, that improvement in performance is benefiting a relatively reduced number of overall riders. Moving on to page 12, I would only say that, of course, these metrics as well are starting to become sort of overwhelmed by the effects of the pandemic, so you don't really see other trends that are relatively apparent there. But I do expect, with this being second to last month of the year, we'll probably be down in terms of overall bus ridership on the order of somewhere in the mid-20% range. With that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan. This is a good report. It's certainly reflective of the times we live in, though. Different than any other report I've seen in so many years. So thank you for preparing it for us today.
Thank you.
If I can go back and on the agenda and ask my fellow board members if I can have a motion for the approval of the June 25th, 2020 board minutes.
Janet Miller, so moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Janet Miller, and there's a second by Walter Searcy. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 And the two ayes that I have, I should have asked this differently. Janet Miller, is it an aye?
Yes, it's an aye. Janet Miller.
Walter Searcy, is that an aye?
Yes, it is.
And Gail Carr-Williams is an aye. So the motion carries. Thank you very much. It's funny how we fall back into those other habits right quick because we. Okay. So next is on our agenda is the MTA Rail Consultant Memorandum of Understanding. Ed, you're back up.
Thank you, ma'am. On pages 15 and 16, you have the item, and I will highlight that it shows it as a committee action item, but this is actually a board action item. and it is related to our management of RTA. RTA has been doing a lot of work on their rail as far as rehabbing, buying new passenger cars, rehabbing locomotives, and they had a task order contract with CDM Smith to help them manage those projects. As they got into those, we realized that the person doing it we would be better suited to have them closer at hand, a gentleman named Steve Banta, who was working for CDM Smith. And we also felt that since we were directly managing them, or him and them, it made more sense to not have him under a task order contract that has overhead write-up for overhead and things like that. So we asked him if he would be willing to come join DTO as a part-time employee and specifically for the rail consultant, as a rail consultant for the projects at hand. He agreed. It actually is going to save RTA about 16% of the overall contract prices that are in place. But we felt like this fell outside of the normal management contract due to the specificity of the work involved, whereas the management contract is just a percentage of certain people's time that is spent on RTA. So we're proposing an MOU between RTA and MTA for this service. And as you can see from the recommendation, I will change it, and we will get this change to be right. It's saying staff requests the board's approval of an MOU between Nashville MTA and RTA to accommodate special rail oversight work being performed under the MTA management agreement with RTA. The MOU will have an effective date of October 1 of 2019 through June 30 of 2021, with an option to extend for additional periods upon review and approval of the Operations and Finance Committee and the full board. Total expenses shall not exceed $420,000 over this contract, or over this MOU, and will be only for actual work performed plus travel expenses in accordance with MTA's travel policy. So we are asking the board to approve this MOU to have this consultant for special rail work for RTA.
Thank you very much, Ed. Is there any discussion?
Yes, this is Walt. Ed, where are the funds for this MOU coming from?
They're coming from grants that RTA has for the work on the rail side.
Okay.
Walter, this is Steve Bland. Most of the work that this individual is doing is on very specific capital projects. Ed mentioned the locomotive rehab, new rail cars, track upgrades, some associated projects. So generally, each of those projects has its own budget, including things like project management, construction management, that type of thing.
Now, this was a single source matter. We only were in consideration of this one consultant.
Correct.
And to be clear, it's not a consulting agreement. He's an employee. He is a part-time temporary employee of DTO.
Yeah, I heard that. But this was not subject to the normal notices, publications, and things of that nature, and solicitation of additional applications for this part-time post. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, why was that the case? What was special about this person? He was already performing work for us? Is that the situation?
He was already performing work under a CDM task order contract with RTA, and once the work started, Walter, it became apparent that RTA would benefit more by having him as a direct payee as opposed to through the contract with CDM Smith. CDM Smith was fine with taking him off the contract. He became a part-time employee with DTO, and we are utilizing, just like under the current management agreement, we are utilizing this DTO employee to work on special projects specifically related to the rail side of RTA's business.
All right, and this is a seamless circumstance where...
Yes, sir. It's it's acting exactly like the management contract, except it's an MOU specifically for the rail oversight.
The other thing I'd add, Walter, is the type of work that's being done is a very unique skill set. So there really wouldn't have been anybody locally. We would have been looking at somebody from somewhere else in the country at in all likelihood, a much higher rate of pay, and very difficult to find because, frankly, most of the people with this skill set are either working full-time for larger commuter rail operations or they're working for people like CDM Smith.
I would like the record of this meeting to reflect this discussion. Because I can see downstream some issues, but for the explanations that have been provided regarding these queries. So please, when you review the tape, whoever reviews the tape, please include this discussion in detail.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm satisfied. Okay.
Well, was this person employed by the who was the person employed before MTA? By?
He was a subcontractor under the CDM Smith task order.
So he didn't work for CDM but was a subcontractor.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Thank you for that, Walter. Janet, anything further? Any questions?
No, I mean, it kind of sounds to me like it's just redeploying a resource that was already being utilized. So, and if it's a more cost-effective, efficient way to do it, then I'm all for it.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Janet Miller.
So I have Janet Miller moving, and I have Walter Searcy second. Is that correct?
That's fine.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
So any further questions? So are we ready for the vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Janet Miller? A or nay?
Aye.
Walter Searcy?
Aye.
And Gail Carr-Williams, aye. Okay, thank you very much. That was a great discussion. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the upcoming procurement project list. Is anyone presenting that, or do you want us just to take a look at it and be mindful of it?
Madam Chair, that's just, again, to look at it and be mindful of it, and we had the ongoing list of procurement, so we didn't reprint that again, but it is listed on your in your board packet.
Very much. I appreciate that. Janet Miller, do you have anything from your committee?
No, I would just like to reiterate what has been said, which is, you know, our employees and particularly the front line, the drivers and the people who are out there, they are risking life and limb every day on the front lines in a really uncertain, crazy time in this world. And I just think we all owe them a debt of gratitude and appreciation because this transit service is a lifeline for so many people to get to their jobs and keep their lives going. And I just think we can't say thank you enough to our team members who are out there every day. So that's my nice comment for the day. We don't have any action items, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So with that, I'll move into the CEO's report. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. First of all, I want to thank everybody and appreciate really everyone who's on the call for your patience with these remote meetings. We're kind of working through the technology as it certainly seems what we thought might be a month or two kind of an interlude is a longer-term piece, so we're working on different pieces of technology to be able to make these a bit more interactive and hopefully a bit more engaging. A couple items I want to echo what Janet said and also what several of our public commenters said with respect to my deep, deep appreciation to what our employees are doing, operators, custodians, maintenance personnel, certainly our supervisors and other operations leadership under very really kind of dire and constantly changing circumstances. We did see, as the city had to kind of retrench a bit and go back to phase 2, we did see ridership dip back down about a week or two ago. It had been sort of trending up a little bit, and we're now at about 58% of our normal ridership. And as Dan alluded to, we have reduced service hours by about 22%. The number that I'm appreciative of Rita and Kent Minnick in our HR department that I always look for every day is where we stand with employees and their health and well-being. To date, we've had a total of 24 employees that have tested positive. Most of those have been asymptomatic, so we're not aware of anybody who's been seriously ill. And of those 24, 8 have moved past the period of contagion and have actually returned to work. And then we have a number more who are out awaiting test results or who have been exposed to someone with the coronavirus. So, and I know Carolyn was on the line and Bill. So it's it's always a changing roll of the dice every morning when you go in as to who's going to be available and who is not. With Trey on the phone, I want to call out if there's anything that's running full speed ahead in the current environment, it's our construction and our capital projects program. And I want to thank Trey and Lydia in particular for that. Several projects of note. Our Nolensville shelter project is chugging right along. We've completed all the civil work and shelter installations at 4 sites. All the concrete work is completed, and we're just waiting for some finish work at an additional 5 sites. And we currently have concrete and drainage work underway at 2 more sites. Probably the biggest challenge of this project will be as we undertake what we're calling a super stop at the Walmart down on Nolensville Pike. It's one of our busiest stops in the system. So we're erecting a much larger permanent structure at this location, and we're going to have to do that simultaneous with a lot of folks boarding. As planning has looked at our analysis, even though ridership overall is down, there are certain stops and locations where ridership is up, and healthcare facilities and Walmarts are 2 of those sites. So people are doing their critical life activities. As far as the Hillsborough Green Hills Transit Center is concerned, we're completing a lot of the pre-construction preparation of contracts for the construction agreement that you all approved last month for Phase 1, which will be a lot of the subsurface and site work, and that work will proceed in lockstep with the site work that the school district is advancing at that site. We've got the designs for the final amenities package that are now being circulated among our affected staff in operations, maintenance, security, et cetera, for comment. With respect to the North Nashville Transit Center, we did execute the temporary license that I communicated to all of you with the owner effective June 1st. We've completed the Phase 1 environmental assessment and all the field work of the geotechnical analysis. Certainly haven't uncovered any red flags at this point. We do expect to incorporate the removal of a couple of underground storage tanks into our demolition package as we move forward toward construction. But that was certainly expected given the prior use of that property. And Rita and our legal team and Margaret are also proceeding with work on the final lease document and the pilot agreement that we'll need to get done with the City of Nashville. Also with respect to capital projects, you've heard us mention occasionally the literally shifting sands of our Nestor bus garage. We've had sinkhole issues in the bus storage area. Trey's group had a detailed geotechnical study advanced on that site and have found that, according to our suspicions, that the subsidence there is really due to an antiquated sewer line underneath the lot that really isn't needed by Metro Water and Sewer anymore, except for our building. So they're advancing design alternatives for us to change our service to another line, for us to fully remove the old line and then backfill with solid fill. Also, with respect to Nestor, as you'll recall, 2 years ago we did a substantial renovation of the office area. Now we're setting our sights toward our maintenance plus storage facilities, and we're working with HDR engineers on an assessment of really what needs to be done, but also a regulatory review of what we will be allowed to do, because frankly, due to its location in the floodplain, we know there are going to be certain limitations on the types of work that we can undergo on that site. So that's something that will probably be going on over the next 6 or 7 months, and you can expect a major update, major presentations on that in the coming months. I heard that Faye's on the line. I think she can attest. We've been working very closely with her and her team on the Mayor's Office new transportation plan, and their goal is to release that plan but before the end of the year. And we're all kind of struggling with how do you get public comment on a plan in a socially distanced environment. But we'll continue to work with Faye and her team, Public Works, Planning, and other entities that are involved to get that done and to move toward the next generation of transportation improvements in Nashville. I want to thank Rita and Margaret. We had a good call yesterday. They continue their ongoing negotiations with Uber for an agreement on our Mobility on Demand pilot. I know that Dan is anxiously awaiting that resolution. Right now, the major sticking points are really down to language dealing with indemnification, insurance, and data sharing, and that's frankly the case in most cities. So we're doing a lot of benchmarking and communication with other agencies to see what they're involved in. You haven't heard about it for a while, but certainly work continues on our new fare collection system that Dan and his team are leading. We've primarily the project itself is proceeding very well, but most of our delay is the fact that we should be in end-user beta testing of mobile payment applications and smart cards by now. But frankly, due to the changes in our fare collection enforcement and the fact that ridership is down by so much, it wouldn't necessarily be a valid test. So we're sort of regrouping to re-up that schedule and figure out what we can do to roll things out. We are conducting employee beta testing and are working through the issues, but there aren't really any minor ones. You know, the additional complication of the coronavirus, the pandemic, is the fact that our retail distribution network, a lot of the ways you'll be able to obtain smart cards and load value is through a very extensive retail distribution network. And a lot of retailers are kind of putting a hold on new business until they see more certainty in what's going to happen. Felix and the planning department have been working with TDOT on TDOT's planned widening of Vietnam Vets Boulevard, which is State Road 386. And it looks like the emerging recommendation that TDOT will be pursuing, they are planning to widen that road to 3 lanes in each direction, is to incorporate full bus on shoulder as part of the initial project, with park and ride upgrades at 2 sites, one on a Conference Drive, which is here in Davidson County, one at New Shackle Island Road in Sumner County. So that was a very positive meeting. We look forward to keep working with them on that. I want to echo and amplify with an amen Darius's comment about being diligent, about watching the budget. You will recall last month you adopted a balanced budget with no service reductions, but that was entirely due to the availability of federal CARES Act money, which is a one-time, one-shot deal. So as we enter next year's budget process, in order to stay whole relative to our current service levels, we will need to see about a $28 million increase in our current year subsidy level from Metro. So both for board members and for any of the public and advocates that are on the line, it's definitely something that bears watching. And then finally, I always like to keep you up to date on things on the RTA side. On July 1st, it was nice to see people in person, even though I was totally paranoid about the event. But on July 1st, we had a number of members of the RTA board and other community leadership that took a ride, facially covered and socially distanced, I will say, on the new Star passenger cars pulled by the newly rehabilitated Star locomotive. And while we were on that ride, in addition to enjoying all the welded rail that we've done over the past couple of years, they were able to inspect the Hamilton Spring Station, which is relatively new, our Park and Ride expansion project in Mount Juliet, and the adjacent development around the station in Mount Juliet, and to hear from Wilson County economic development officials on the impact of the Star and how they're focusing their economic development efforts as a result. And with respect to the Mount Juliet Station, like all of our construction projects, they are humming right along ahead of what the contract schedule is, so we expect to have those additional 100 spaces and other amenities like our fare collection upgrades and tying the station into the City of Mount Juliet's trail system complete by the end of the year. So it was a lot to catch up on since I haven't spoken to you in a while, but unless there are any questions, Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
That was a great report. But
Hello.
Yeah. You there, Walter? You have a question? Some thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question. Just on the testing of our employees, Steve, how long is the turnaround on the results?
It varies. I mean, because obviously it's not one site. Some are going to private physicians. Some are going to the public sites. It varies. I think Nick or Rita, do you have better information on the turnaround time for the tests? Some are frankly frustratingly long. Others pretty quick, but I think Rita and Nick probably have the best current data on that.
I think that, and Nick is on the call, he can interject as well, but I think, the fastest we've seen so far is actually about a 24-hour turnaround. The longest we've seen so far, believe it or not, has been about almost 2 weeks. So it really does seem to be varying from facility to facility.
Yeah.
Do you all recommend a particular facility for them to go to so the test results can come back a little quicker, or do you just don't get involved, or what do you all
We have not made such recommendations. A lot of the employees at this juncture are actually getting referrals from their own doctors. They might go in to see a doctor just maybe not feeling well in general, and then that doctor will either say, hey, I think you ought to go get a test, and here's where you can go. So at this juncture, we've really left it up to the employee, but we certainly have made the list of testing sites that we know of, public testing sites available to all of our, let them know where those sites are. But typically they're getting referred by their doctors about where to go.
But we don't have a mandatory testing process.
A mandatory? No, we do not.
That may be something we want to look at. Because a 2-week turnaround on a test is no test. I mean, that's a test that's irrelevant, the outcomes. And secondly, I think our numbers are low, 24 in terms of persons who've
tested positive at this juncture, yes. That we're aware of.
We had anybody hospitalized?
No, we have not. Not to our knowledge, no.
All right. Well, maybe my concern is a little overblown, but let's keep looking at it, I guess.
And I do want to assure the board, as Steve is aware, that Nick Oldham and I, as well as HR staff and all of us really, Bill Miller's group, everyone, we really are leaning on the recommendations of both our local and state health departments as well as the CDC. So everything that we're doing and trying to communicate to our employees really is based on the information we're getting daily, understanding that this is a very fluid situation. It's a new disease, if you will, that the whole country and world is dealing with right now. But every day, Nick is, looking on his resources and talking to people at the health department, and so we really are trying to stay on top of all of the recommendations that we're continually receiving on how to keep our employees and customers safe, quite honestly.
Got it.
Anything else? Any questions or comments about Steve's report? Steve, thank you for a great report, and it was very comprehensive, and so much is going on, and it's just really incredible to see so much going on in light of the ever-changing hourly day that we have. So thank you for all that good work and the work that everyone else is doing. I just want to take a moment and echo Janet's sentiments, Walter's sentiments, that I could not be more proud to be part of MTA. I think everybody at MTA are heroes, and I think the fact that we go out, you all go out every day and make certain that our city has the transportation they need to go to work, to go shopping, is incredible, and I think everybody does it with such courage and such honor that it just, over time, it sometimes even overwhelms me to know that I get to be a part of this. So to all of you, each and every one of you, those listening, those not listening, thank you so much. And your work is not going unnoticed, so thank you very much. To my board members, thank you for being, paying attention to what's happening and supporting MTA the way that you are supporting at me. So saying all that, I will say that I'm just going to remind everyone to review all of the reports because we're not going into them as in-depth as we normally would, but to review them. If you have questions, reach out to staff, and they will certainly answer any questions that you might have. And if it's something that we need to work on, make certain that you share it back in, and then we can make certain we have it for next month's board meeting. So appreciative of all that all of you do. Thank you all. And if there's nothing further or any other business, we'll adjourn. Anything further?
Thanks, Gail, for your leadership.
Oh, it's just
Amen. Amen.
Thank you all for standing in. I mean, it's definitely a team effort. It's a community effort, and we all have to do our parts. And I'm just grateful I get a very, very small part in this, so thank you.
All right, bye, everybody.
I want to say thank you to our community that called in with public comments.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you all for being there, supporting us, and noticing the good work everybody's doing. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So with that, any other business? The only thing I can say is call on us if you need us. And we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
Take care of everybody. Take care.
Right.